Hello everybody, welcome back. So, bit of disclaimer before I start. I may sniff during this. A cold is trying to get a grasp of me. However, I shall resist the urge. But, carrying on. Today, on Gale and Umbral, we are looking at the reluctant warrior, Mr. Pacifist himself. We are looking at Baruuk. Now, Baruuk released shortly after Christmas on PlayStation 4, and the entire time I was debating what Umbral Warframe to do next. But leveling up Baruuk, I found a few interesting things. Some very, very interesting things. So, I figured, hey, let's make him the next Umbral Warframe we do. Now, as you can see here, Baruuk is paired up with a Daikyu and a Cobra and Crane. That will work into a synergy, which I will explain a bit later. But first, let's jump into the abilities. Baruuk's passive. Each projectile dodged, each enemy lulled or disarmed, erodes Baruuk's restraint. Now, Baruuk's fourth ability is an exalted pair of fists. However, unlike Excalibur, Mesa, Valkyr, Wukong and all the other warframes that use exalted weapons, you can't just press 4 and start using his exalted fists. Baruuk has a gauge which will decay every time he uses his first, second or third abilities. These abilities can be used in conjunction with one another to erode the restraint bar faster. Basically, when the gauge is at least a quarter of the way empty, Baruuk can use his exalted fists. However, in using his exalted fists, he's restoring that restraint. So while you have Serene Storm active, you really want to be using his other powers just to keep the gauge down if you want to keep using the Serene Storm. Now, as Baruuk's restraint is diminished, he becomes more and more resistant to damage. So he does get damage reduction the lower and lower his restraint goes. And as you can see from the power section, he does get damage reduction with 2 out of his 4 powers. But anyway, jumping into the powers. First up we have Elude. Dodge all incoming projectiles, but only while not attacking. Excuse me, my voice is cracking. Use again to deactivate this ability. Elude is a channeled ability. While it's channeled, Baruuk's stance will change into a more relaxed posture, and basically all bullets and melee attacks, which I did notice when I was testing out the build for Baruuk, mowers were coming up to me and trying to kick me, and they couldn't do any damage to me. So melee attacks and bullet projectiles, including bombard rockets, pass straight through you while Elude is active. However, while you're attacking, it counts as if you weren't in Elude. So you can still take damage while you're attacking while this power's on. So you have to be careful with that. We have an angle of 360 degrees, meaning from whatever angle, bullets are just going to pass through us, making our restraint diminish faster. Now, to achieve a 360 degree angle on Elude, you need at base 200% power range. And it's a very good power. You know, if you just want to draw the attention of the enemies, pop Elude, maybe use a sword and shield and block with the Guardian Derusion mod, that will taunt all the enemies to you, and you can't take any damage. It's a very effective method, especially in defense. His second power is Lull. A calming wave slows enemies until they fall into slumber. Enemies woken by damage will be confused and disoriented. Short-term amnesia means all waking enemies forget anything that happened before the lull. So, this is a very good power for spy missions. If you set off the alarm and something's running towards the alarm console, you can just throw out Lull, they'll go to sleep, then they'll forget they ever saw you. By that time, you can either kill them or just sneak past them. Now we have a radius of 55 meters, which is a huge radius for Lull, which means we're basically sleeping entire groups. A duration of 5.4 seconds. Now this may seem a bit confusing. Basically that duration is the time it's going to take the enemies to go to sleep. So we have a 5.4 second duration upon casting Lull for the enemies to slow down from when they start slowing down to when they go to sleep. And of course we have a sleep duration of 21 seconds, 0.6. Again, with all these Umbral builds, if I do forget something, the statistics will be in description below. Desolate Hands. Summon a bevy of orbiting daggers to seek out enemy guns, destroying them with a small explosion. Combine with Elude to double the range. Now out of Baruuk's 3 abilities, Desolate Hands erodes Baruuk's restraint the fastest. The second being Lull, because it's a 0.6 degradation for every enemy hit. So if you hit a group of 10 enemies, you get 6 points off your restraint. So, what does Desolate Hands do? As you can see here, seeks out enemy guns. Essentially, Desolate Hands disarms opponents. And combined with Elude, we have a 26.4 meter radius that these daggers will search out enemies. And because of the efficiency of Baruuk's powers now, we can keep Elude up nigh indefinitely. Now, for the radius we have 13.2 meters, but again with Elude you have 26.4. We will have a maximum of 8 daggers orbiting us, and the explosion range of each dagger will be 6.6 meters, dealing 250 damage in an area. And for each dagger we have 80 damage reduction. So, excuse me, I believe that is 630? No, 640. 640 damage reduction. Serene Storm. With his restraint eroded, Baruuk commands the desert wind to deliver powerful radial strikes with his fists and feet. Each moment commanding the storm restores his restraint. So, what you really want to do, you really want to keep Elude on at all times, use Lull in big groups, and keep on Desolate Hands. And while you're in Serene Storm, as long as you keep using your other powers, your restraint is going to be eroded to the point where you can keep Serene Storm up. Not indefinitely, but quite a sizable chunk of the time. Now, into the mod setup. So, there are a few little quirks to Baruuk. With Elude, as I said, you don't take damage from anything unless you're attacking. However, if you're charging something, be it an optical shot or a bow shot, any kind of weapon that requires charging, you can still charge it and not be hit while in Elude. That is why we have the die queue. Not only is it my favourite bow, but it packs a big punch, and with its fast draw speed I can charge and hold the arrow, line up a bunch of enemies and mow them down. And of course we have Baruuk's signature sword and shield, Cobra and Crane. Now the Cobra and Crane is a very unique sword and shield when paired up with its master Baruuk, because any enemy hit with the Cobra and Crane will be put to sleep. The amount of enemies that are can be put to sleep can be affected by the range of the weapon. Excuse me. So if you put a maxed prime breach on the Cobra and Crane and whack an entire group of enemies, you are going to be sleeping that entire group. So again, that's another bit of crowd control for Baruuk. Now the Desert Wind is the build we're using. Why am I not going for full damage on the Desert Wind? That is because Baruuk is not a damage dealing frame and is never going to be. With the way his powers are set up, Baruuk is not a damage dealing frame. In low to mid gameplay, Baruuk can get the job done. He can go smash stuff and have a laugh doing it. However, when it comes to high level gameplay, Baruuk loses any kind of damage. He becomes more of a crowd control frame. So that is why we are modding him as one. As you can see, we have 220% range. Again, to reach the whole 360 degrees on Elude, you just require 200% power range. We have 175% efficiency, so our powers are dirt cheap and we can keep Elude on pretty much indefinitely. So for the aura, we have corrosive projection just for the armor reduction. I do have shattering impact on both the Cobra and Crane and the Desert Wind. Because their primary attack types are impact, they benefit very, very well with shattering impact, which essentially removes 0.6 of an enemy's armor, 6 enemy armor, every time they are inflicted by impact damage. Now, impact damage, which means if a weapon is primarily impact, if they're hit by that, that will strip armor. If you get an impact proc, that will strip armor. And again, corrosive projection adds on to Baruuk's armor stripping capabilities. Augur Reach and overextended just to reach that 220% power range. An Umbral build, so we got Umbral Vitality and Umbral Intensify for that big boost to health and helping us maintain that 100% power strength. Power Drift for power strength again, helping us sit at 100% power strength and a chance to resist knockdown. Honestly, as long as you have Elude up, you don't have to worry about being knocked out, because their grapples will go straight through you.
Tenor, a new alert has begun.
But it's for those scenarios that, say Elude runs out, you run out of energy, and Elude, you can't use the Elude yet. That's for where the power drift comes in. Constitution for faster knockdown recovery. Again, that will synergize with this if we do get knocked down. Plus we get our ability duration, so we sit over 100% duration, power duration, while using fleeting expertise. Fleeting expertise and streamline give us that beautiful 175% power efficiency, making Baruuk's abilities dirt cheap to use. That you can get very, very spam happy if you want to. However, if you don't want that extra 15% that Streamline will give you for the efficiency cap, you can use Flow for an extra 300 energy. Or if you're willing to put another former in, you put a V here and you can use Hunter's Adrenaline. Now Hunter's Adrenaline is not very handy on Baruuk, but it can be handy enough. What I mean by that is, if you're using a Cobra and Crane for example, you're slashing away, getting loads of shattering impact procs. However, you're attacking. As soon as you start that attack animation, your elude stops working. Meaning you can take damage from whatever source. So if a heavy gunner's behind you, or in front of you, or wherever, and they start doing a rapid fire, that's going to chunk through your shields, hit your health. However, you'll have enough energy from Hunter's Adrenaline to use either Lull or Desolate Hands, and then the daggers will shoot off and hopefully hit that enemy. So we have efficiency with fleet and expertise and streamline, overextended and augur reach, giving us that beautiful range, prime continuity and constitution, giving us over 100% power duration. I do have arcane grace in here because, you know, I have it, might as well use it. However, you don't need it. One thing I do like to do while I'm making these builds is leave arcane grace off and test the build and make sure it can survive without arcanes. So whatever arcanes you decide to put on it means it's just a big bonus to it. Now for the build for the Daikyu, basic damage status build, nothing too special there. Still trying to get rhythm for it. The Cobra and Crane. Now this is a very powerful weapon, because with Sacrificial Steel we have enough crit chance to make the Cobra and Crane Blood Rush worthy. What does that mean? That means if I go into a bunch of enemies and start slashing away, thanks to Prime Reach I'm going to be hitting all those enemies. You know, my combo count is going to grow and grow and grow until eventually I can get red crits. And not only are we going to get red crits, but we're going to be shattering armor with shattering impact. Plus we're going to be putting the enemy to sleep. It is just a very devastating combo. Right. Excuse me. Right. Enough shattering. Let's see how Baruuk can perform in Sanctuary Onslaught. I have to say, I was quite impressed with Baruuk. In a way that he gets immortal and powerful, but not in a way that Valkyr or Umbral or Wukong can do it. His reluctance very much makes him powerful in a certain respect, and you'll see that during this. So as soon as you gauge in combat, right, you can go Elude. We've got a big group here. Let's put them to sleep with Lull. As you can see, a quarter of the gauge has already gone. It just makes it easy picking for the Daikyu. See, as we see there, because I was in the animation of firing the Daikyu, I got hit by the ancients. So you really have to be careful with that. Also, what I may have forgotten to mention as well is while an enemy is under the effect of Lull, if you take off a certain percentage of their health, they will wake up. So if you take off half their health, I think it is with this particular setup, they will wake up. Go for the Cobra and Crane. As you can see, paired out with Baruuk, the Cobra and Crane is a very... It's not the best weapon, but it's very reliable in Baruuk's sense. Because not only do we have the Signal and Tantis shield throw, but the fact that we can inflict multiple impact procs and get the constant proc from Shattering Impact makes it just a very devastating weapon. Wow, I'm going to run out of efficiency. Can't run out of efficiency now, that would be a terrible test. So it's this scenario that you really need Penance Adrenaline. Again, Streamline isn't mandatory. Streamline isn't mandatory. If you're willing to invest 5 formers into Baruuk, you can easily fit Penance Adrenaline into him. Serene Storm. As you can see, against armored targets and any enemy past level 50, Baruuk's damage really takes a hit. But if you can get some impact procs from your Desert Wind, you will be stripping armor, which means your damage will start climbing again. However, not to exorbitant amounts. If you're planning to take Baruuk against level 100s, I would highly recommend you just bring corrosive weapons. Say bring a corrosive pox and a barrel and slash weapon. Unless you want the crowd control from the Cobra and Crane. As you can see, even with a base 100% power strength, the Serene Storm can still do decent damage. It's not the biggest numbers I've ever seen on an assaulted weapon, but it is a lot better than Wukong's. Poor Wukong now. It is a lot better than Wukong's exalted weapon, and it gets the added benefit of Shattering Impact, which honestly I didn't, like most people, I've casted off Shattering Impact just because we had corrosive. But on impact weapons, if you run Shattering Impact and corrosive, you're pretty much essentially getting a double armor strip. Which in a way is pretty handy, especially if going against high level armor targets. Take off Serene Storm. Elude. Get some Lull up there. Look at that erosion. we pretty much had half a gauge and a single Lull and Desolate Hands eroded it to the point where I can just do this. There, where is Uli? Come here. I feel, in a way, Baruuk is very much a nod. If you remember the old program Legend Avatar, Baruuk is very much a nod to Aang. He's Warframe's version of The Last Airbender. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, Baruuk is a very good Warframe to play. His survivability is pretty up there with most Warframes. Because as long as you have a way of regenerating your energy, whether it be through Hunter's Adrenaline or the energy orbs and floor, as long as you can cast the Lull Axel, those are targets going to fall asleep, meaning you can just pick them up. But let's face it, unless you're going out and looking for level 150s and past that, you're not really going to be using Baruuk for that kind of level of gameplay. And even if you are, as you can see here, Baruuk's damage, these are level 40s, it takes more than one punch to take him out. Please note, that's with getting impact procs as well.
I have opened a new data conference. Proceed immediately.
Absolutely beautiful. Right.
Attack us, and we will counter.
Let's get the Desolate Hands. Excuse me. Yeah, I do apologise if I cough, and a cold's been trying to get a grip of me for at least a week.
Efficiency is failing. I need more conflict.
Right. Serene Storm.
I will consider
Concentrate. Concentrate. Come on, Baruuk. We got this. As you can see, even though I have Elude on, the fact that I'm attacking with Serene Storm still means I can still take damage. So, even though you have Serene Storm on, you still aren't immortal. You still are not immortal with Elude. Elude's greatest strength really comes from charged-based weapons. So like bows and... Oh, it ran out of efficiency.
Usable data, but I need more.
Well, at least we reached Zone 4. But yeah. Elude's real efficiency really comes from charged based weapons. So bows, any kind of heavy weapon that requires charging, like the Opticore. These are the kind of weapons that are going to make Elude very much worthwhile. But as you saw there, during that bit of gameplay, we was able to maintain the degradation of our restraint gauge quite well. Just using Elude and Lull at the same time pretty much eroded half of my restraint gauge. And of course, going back to Baruuk's passive, the lower Baruuk's restraint gauge is, the more resistant he'll become to damage. And again, paired with Serene Storm and Desolate Hands, the more you're using these powers, the more damage reduction Baruuk's going to have. To the point where if you farm within Hunter's Adrenaline and you did just keep whacking away with Serene Storm or the Cobra and Crane, Baruuk can kind of become like a tank in a way. But remember, Baruuk is foremost a crowd control warframe. So if you go into high level gameplay, please remember that before you try squeezing him out for all the damage he can do. Baruuk is a pacifist, he is a crowd control warframe. He excels at keeping groups of enemy under sleep. But that is it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Ta-ta now.